Okay, so where are we now? So, yes, we're still in the 1930s for my...
That's great.
Yeah,
I think it's one of the best times. Is it like pre-code?
Yeah, some cracking stuff. So here I'm talking about 1936, and it's a film called Things to Come by Alex Corder, based on The Shape of Things to Come, which is a novel by H.G. Wells. And Wells was very much involved with the filming of Things to Come. It's a big old epic. I don't know if I made you guys watch it.
Yeah.
I think I did make you guys watch it in class back in the day. Yeah. I mean, it can be a bit ponderous in parts, and it is quite didactic. It's a bit preachy, but then that's Wells for you. But again, some tremendous stuff in there. And again, you've got this battle. You've got an ideological battle between, if you like, the Enlightenment worldview, which is reason and progress is what defines humanity, and that over and against what you might see as a more emotional, more chaotic, more anarchic form of life. So the whole backdrop really is about this kind of endless war. Endless war in the sense that it went on for a long time. So you have a war which is kind of fairly prescient, because it pretty much predicts the Second World War. Nobody's ever mentioned, and the decades roll past, and you see just in kind of montage form this war, and it starts out everybody all kind of gung ho and very pristine equipment and modern day tanks and all this sort of stuff, and then as it progresses and the war carries on, everything becomes more scrappy, and people start to lose their ability to repair things, which in a sense kind of harks back to that whole kind of conversation we had right at the beginning about the Amiga man, the last man on Earth. After a while, what actual skills do you have to survive? I mean, we know how to shop. We know how to buy stuff, and we know how to buy services, but I couldn't make a light bulb. I'm not even sure I would know how to kind of make electricity, other than if I could find a generator. And so you've got this kind of thing. The technologies are beginning to be lost. Medical technologies are being lost. The ability to make cars and internal combustion engines and so on. There's a great scene where some guy, just a minor thing, where some they're living in almost like a feudal city, because it's all in the same town. It's just called Every Town, but in various kind of decades. And there's this guy with an ox attached to a Rolls Royce, and he's pulling this Rolls Royce through the street. And he said, I remember when as a very small child, it was nothing to have the engine going. We could travel a whole 20 miles, even more, in a day. And this is kind of wow. So you have this kind of, everything starts to collapse into view. There is a virus kind of that's attacked everybody. So people are dying of this virus, and they don't have the technology, they don't have the medical facilities to figure out how to cure it. And so you actually have some very draconian, very, very kind of gung-ho individual who was Ralph Richardson in his younger day. Just saying, right, okay, build a cordon around the town. Anybody with the illness, you shoot them, and he just picks up a rifle. Some guys staggering towards him, asking for help. He just shoots them, and of course, what you discover a few years later is that actually worked. That by barricading and isolating, and by shooting anybody who wandered in with the sickness, they basically got it under sort of some sort of control. Yeah. A kind of weird draconian form of lockdown, and he's there kind of he's the kind of the lord of the manor. He's got all the kind of the furs and stuff and bits, and you hear at one point the sound of an engine, and here we have the kind of the opposite perspective coming in. You've got this group who've just been have eked out an existence. They now have a form of kind of fairly feudal a fairly feudal kind of lifestyle, kind of working. And then these guys turn up, and it's a very modern looking kind of, black helicopter aircraft that kind of lands. This guy comes out all in the black. I mean, it's very fascist looking. Comes out in all the kind of the black, really nice uniform. Raymond Massey. He comes out in the black uniform and the black helmet and the black boots, and he says, I've come from our base in Basra, Mediterranean, and there is the last vestige of the scientists and the engineers. These are the guys, not poets and not kind of philosophers and so on. The scientists and the engineers, and we've got it together, and we're going to have to kind of clean up your world for you. And and Ralph Richards going, clean it up. Look, this is our place. You can't just come swanning in here, with your fancy stuff and clean us up. But there's this kind of grand narrative thing. This kind of this sort of fascistic kind of, we know best. This is the norm, and the norm is technological development and technological kind of evolution. That's what we're going. And you're retrograde, not kind of, well, you're a different culture. This is how you roll. We'll let you get on with it. No. So they send in these squadrons of aircraft. And it's great, and they bomb this village, this town, with the gas of peace.
Yeah.
And it reminded me it just reminds me of things like kind of the Vietnam War and all the kind of euphemisms about kind of defoliation and pacification. And basically defoliation is just burn down everything, and pacification is just shoot everybody.
Oh well,
and here's and it's kind of that kind of Orwellian speak. It's a kind of a language game to make the whole thing look as if it's quite sanitized. So they fly in with the gas of peace, and they gas everybody. Nobody dies, interestingly enough. It just puts everybody to sleep, and then when they wake up, the engineers and the scientists have taken over. Except for Ralph Richardson dies. He's the kind of the symbol of that darker age, and he couldn't cope, and he had a heart attack, and he dies in the street, shooting his pistol at the last of these aircraft. So I mean that, and then you get this whole business of rebuilding a new world, and you've got Raymond Massey kind of saying, okay, now we're ready to create the world we really want. A world of progress and of science. There's no question that it could be anything else. So you have a whole montage. We can get a little bit tedious. It's almost like a chunk of animation in 2001: A Space Odyssey, where somebody's obviously smoked too much weed, and they just go off on like a 10-minute kind of psychedelic kind of thing as their spaceship flies through into the obelisk thing.
Okay, Bertrand. Roll the audio.
There they go. That faint gleam of light. I feel that what we've done is monstrous. What they've done is magnificent. Will they come back? Yes, and go again and again, till the landing is made and the moon is conquered. This is only a beginning. But if they don't come back, my son and your daughter, what of that, Cabal? Then, presently, others will go. Oh, God, is there never to be any age of happiness? Is there never to be any rest? Rest enough for the individual man. Too much and too soon, and we call it death. But for man, no rest and no ending. He must go on, conquest beyond conquest. First this little planet and its winds and waves, and then all the laws of mind and matter that restrain him. Then the planets about him, and at last, out across immensity to the stars. And when he has conquered all the deeps of space and all the mysteries of time, still he will be beginning. But we're such little creatures. Poor humanity is so fragile, so weak. Little animals. Little animals. And if we're no more than animals, we must snatch each little scrap of happiness and live and suffer and pass. Mattering no more than all the other animals do or have done. It is this or that. All the universe or nothingness. Which shall it be, husband? Which shall it be?
So you have this kind of long kind of montage of them digging out this mountainside where the city used to be, and burrowing underground and creating this big underground city. And then you've got the next generation where they're talking to this little girl who and this guy's teaching her about back in the day people used to get their light from the sun by living above ground, but now we've learned how to make our own light. And it's that whole Enlightenment idea of taking control. Don't let nature's not something that controls us. We don't have to rely on the sun. We don't have to rely on any of that stuff. We create our own light. We create our own food, and that's and it's that Enlightenment idea of domination of nature. And they're about to send their big kind of representative kind of idea of nails it all down. Is they've created something called the space gun, and it literally is, because it's pre-rocketry, really, pretty much. It's a huge cannon. It's just a huge cannon, and they're going to fire this bullet capsule with 2 people in it up into space. And all these kind of young, kind of blonde. They're all wearing robes because togas represents the idea that you're advanced. So everybody's wearing these toga-y things. It's kind of this is brilliant. We're going to send these 2 kids out, and then you've got Raymond Massey saying we've got to do that. We've got to conquer the stars. And then you've got his buddy who's going, I don't know. Have we gone too far with this? Right back to that whole Frankenstein thing. Is this something we can do it? Should we do this? Should we be shooting our kids into space? I'm not entirely sure that's such a good idea. Yeah. And then you've got the whole kind of underground rumblings where you've got this very melodramatic artist. He's like a sculptor. And he's doing a lot of posturing, clearly kind of theatrically trained. And he's kind of, yes. And he's saying, now we need to we need to rally against these monstrous people with their science, telling us what we can and can't do. It's almost that kind of the anti-intellectualist view that we see a lot of today. Scientists, my God, we don't need to listen to scientists anymore. And they rallies everybody with a torch and stuff. Let's go to the space gun, and they all go to the space gun to kind of hit it with bars and try and break it and so on. But they fire it off, and it's the kind of the end of the movie, and you can see this thing shooting into space. And Raymond Massey and his kind of more worried kind of friends down there going, we've done a horrible thing. And Raymond Massey goes, no, because this is basically it. For human beings, we have to just keep striving. We have to just keep moving. It's everything or nothing. Either we stay down here as little things crawling in the ground, or we ascend into them. And again, it kind of harks back to what you were saying. There has to be hope for something other. Otherwise, what's the point? Yeah. So it is quite melodramatic. It's quite preachy, but there's some fantastic pieces in that film, and it shifts perspective. So sometimes you're looking at the very big picture and you think, yeah, absolutely, to the stars. And we've just recently seen the another space shuttle launch this last week, which I have to say I got quite excited about, because I get quite excited about these things. So you see that, and then kind of the obverse is, but how many hospitals, how many schools could you have how many people could you have fed?
It's a difficult one.
Yeah, but we have to go to the star. We have to have that hope as a species. I think we have to have that hope. And you see this in there's a particular scene, and I will stop on this point because I get very excited about it. There's a particular scene early on when the war is just in its early days, and you got this kind of this battle between 2 kind of biplanes. They're flying around shooting at each other, and then one of them kind of crashes, and then the other one lands, and it's Raymond Massey again, because basically he's a central character, just different generations of him, different kind of descendants of him, and he gets out of his craft, his airplane, and he goes to see the guy that he's just shot down, and he's trying to comfort him, and it's kind of while they were in the air flying around in abstraction, perfectly easy to just keep shooting in this guy and drive him to his death. But when I've landed and I see you face to face, different matter. There's a kind of humanity there, and it's kind of like almost like kind of Levinas talking about our engagement with the face of the other actually kind of creates true humanity. And then to add a layer to that, you have this young girl, and she's running out of the mist, and basically they've just this guy's just saturation bombed the whole area with poison gas, and he's landed, and this girl's running and she's coughing and so on, and he reaches into his bag and he gives her his gas mask, and he looks at the guy who's just shot him down, and he says, I've just gassed her entire village, and I've probably killed her mother and her father and her family without a qualm, and yet here I am giving her my gas mask. He says, it's a joke, isn't it? I mean, how does that work? And then, Raymond Massey kind of gives him his gun in a kind of gentlemanly way so he can shoot himself with it because the gas is coming. And he takes the gun, he gets in, he takes off in his one-man aircraft and flies off. And it does kind of raise that it does really kind of, I think, raise that issue about perspective. That, if we are too far back, then it's easy to demonize, it's easy to take that kind of very elitist view and to say, all people are like this is how it should be done. And then we lose track of the phenomena of the world. As people like Husserl and so on, and Merleau-Ponty and so on have taught us, we actually have to walk the earth, we actually have to walk the terrain. Because if you just spend all your time looking at maps, very easy to bomb a map, very easy to gas a map. Not so easy to shoot a little girl or to let her be gassed if you're seeing her face to face. So I think for it's even though it's slightly ponderous in places, there's some good stuff to be had in things to come.